In this video, I'm going to be making butterscotch pecan slab pie. It should hopefully turn out to look like this. This recipe is from the, I think it's November, let's see, from the November 2023 Food Network magazine. This is the Thanksgiving cookbook is what it says. And I just thought that looked really, really good. And so I figured we would make it. There are two sections to this. There are, you have ingredients for the crust, and then you have ingredients for the filling. We are just going to focus on the crust right now. These are the things you need. You need 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of cold vegetable shortening, 1.5 sticks. It says unsalted butter, cold unsalted butter. Mine, I'm just using regular butter. You need 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and then you're going to need 6 to 8 tablespoons of ice water. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put all of our flour, sugar, and salt in our food processor, and we're going to pulse it together. Okay, really you're just mixing that together. So now you want to add your 1/4 cup of shortening and then half of your butter. So I've got all my butter here and I'm just gonna eyeball half of it. That looks good. And we're gonna pulse it again. Okay, it says add the remaining butter. And then we're going to pulse it again until pea-sized pieces form. Drizzle in the vinegar and 6 tablespoons of the water. So this is all the vinegar.
You can put it on low if you want.
Oh, you know what? Ashley has done this before.
Yeah, you just pour it in the little one.
And she pours it into this one and then it drizzles it itself. So you just have to get it in there without spilling it. And then it's going to dribble. Yeah, and see it's going down. And then 6 tablespoons of water. Fill this and see if it stays together. Yeah, I think it will be fine. What I've done is they want you to basically put it in plastic wrap and put it into an 8-inch, mold it into an 8-inch square. So Kevin had the idea, I thought it was a really good idea, take plastic wrap, put it into our 8-inch pan, and put it in here and then just put it in the refrigerator like that. So that's what I'm gonna do, and that way I know, instead of fussing with it and trying to figure out, oh, is this 8 inches? I can just do it right in here and we'll know that it's the right size. I could take this out of here if I wanted to, because we're actually going to end up, the recipe calls for a larger pan, but I've already got it in here and we just want to wrap it up, and it needs to go in the refrigerator either for an hour or overnight. So when I come back, I'll let you know how long I ended up leaving it, but it'll at least be refrigerated for an hour. I've had this dough in the refrigerator for about an hour and 15 minutes. They want you to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, so I have turned my oven on. They want you to lightly flour your surface, which I have cleaned my counter off. I'll probably need more than this. And then I'm gonna roll my dough out onto this flour, and we want to get it, it says to a 13 by 18 inch rectangle. Try to roll this up on my rolling pin and then roll it out into my baking pan. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm definitely not doing it the way they wanted me to do it. They wanted me to have it to the right size of the pan when I put it in here. I didn't, so I'm cheating. So I'm just gonna scooch it. We're gonna scooch and scooch, and this is, you know, this is how we're gonna do it.
You could probably put the rolling pin in that thing. Start this end and push down. There you
go. And we're gonna cheat our way. Cheat our way to the end.
That works.
That
knowing
worked.
how you know it now, knowing what you did, I would have put it in the pan in the first place.
Oh, well, it worked out good, I think. We'll see. We'll see at the end. I'll let you know how it worked out. Notice I didn't grease it or anything, though. Grease the pan. Didn't use my parchment paper, my handy dandy parchment paper, because it didn't say to, but so I'm not going to. But now we want to put this in the freezer for 15 minutes. I forgot one step before I started to freeze it. They want you to poke holes in the bottom before you stick it in the freezer. So just go through and poke holes all through the bottom of this and then freeze it for 15 minutes. It's been freezing for 15 minutes, or in the freezer for 15 minutes. We're gonna take a piece of parchment paper, lay it over the top, and we're gonna pour some baking beans over the top. And these are all the baking beans we have. So it is what it is. And we're going to very carefully put these in the oven without rolling them all over the floor. And we're gonna bake this for 30 minutes. It has been in the oven for 30 minutes. So now it says to take the weights off and the parchment and then put it back in the oven for another 15 to 20 minutes, or until the crust is golden brown all over. So I'm gonna take this off. And these beans are hot, so you have to be careful. Ooh, I don't wanna lose any. Whoop. Okay. And I'm just gonna set these to the side. And then we're gonna put this back in the oven. I'm setting my timer 18 minutes. And then we'll be back. This baked for about 14.5 minutes, and it was brown. And it shrunk a little around the edges, which is fine. It's okay. This is not going to be perfect. So we're gonna leave this to the side, and now we're going to start our filling. So this is what you need for the filling. You need, and it's just all over the place, Kevin, so you need 3 cups of pecan halves. And it says pecan halves, but actually you just need to go ahead and buy chopped pecans.
We got chopped.
I don't know why it says that, because you're gonna end up chopping them anyway. So just buy chopped pecans. You need 1 1/4 cup of packed light brown sugar. You need 6 tablespoons. It says unsalted butter at room temperature. You can use just regular salted butter, and it doesn't matter if it's at room temperature because we're gonna melt it anyway. So I don't know why they said that. You need a 1/4 cup of light corn syrup. It's in here. You need 3 tablespoons of corn starch. It says 1 tablespoon of scotch is optional. We're not using scotch just because we don't have that in the house, and so I wasn't gonna buy that just for this recipe. You need 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which I have in here, 2.5 cups of whole milk, which I have in the refrigerator. I've already measured it out. It's in the refrigerator. And then you need 3 eggs. So I have the eggs here. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take your pecans and lay them out on a baking sheet. And we're going to bake these. It says for 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to go on the low end because if these start to burn, they'll scorch and they won't be any good at all. So I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes and then we'll be back. While our pecans are baking, we're in a saucepan. We're going to take our brown sugar and butter, our corn syrup, vanilla, salt, cornstarch, and half a cup of the milk. And we're going to whisk these together on medium heat. I only left these in the oven for 8 minutes, and now you want to, it said reserve like a cup. So take out a cup right now. If you did not buy chopped pecans at this point, you're going to want to chop your pecans. So this has been simmering for 5 minutes. And what you want to do is you want to take out a third of it. You probably should use a glass measuring container, but that's okay. I'm going to use this. I'm going to take out a third, and I'm going to reserve this for the topping, it says. Okay, I'm going to lay that on a plate. Now you want to take the remainder of your milk, which is 2 cups, and you want to whisk this in. So now we want to whisk in our eggs, and we're going to whisk these in until they're smooth, and whisk the whole time because we don't want to scramble the eggs. Now we are going to return this to the heat. And we're going to cook the mixture over medium heat, whisking constantly until thickened to a consistency slightly thinner than pudding. It says 5 to 7 minutes. Because we bought all chopped pecans, we did not need to reserve any. So just take all 3 cups of your chopped pecans and pour them into your pan. And we're going to fold them all in, all 3 cups into your mixture.
Now, if you used whole pecans, you would want to chop 2 of them, leave 1 whole, and then mix them all in.
I don't know why.
I think it's just for looks.
I don't know why you would want to go to the trouble, but if you want to do that, you can. For me, that's just one more thing to add to the list of this long recipe. So now you want to take this and pour this whole mixture over your crust. Now we're going to take, you see the steam coming off of this. Now we're going to take this whole pan, put it in the refrigerator, and it needs to stay in the refrigerator at least 2 hours or overnight. So this is how it looks after 2 hours in the refrigerator. 2 hours was their minimum, so I set a timer for 2 hours. Our butterscotch had gotten firm, so Kevin I put it into this bowl, and Kevin microwaved it for 8 seconds. And so now you want to pour this over the top. And I didn't reserve a whole lot, so.
But it's just supposed to be for decoration.
Yeah, and you want to be able to have some in on each piece. I'm gonna cut it with a pizza cutter. That may be a mistake. I don't know. It just seems like it would cut well with a pizza cutter. So I'm gonna find out. It says active 1 hour, total 5 hours, and it serves from 12 to 16. And how many did I get?
3 times 8.
3 times 6. I got 18. I got 18.
I was thinking 8 and 18.
And it says serves 12 to 16. So I got a couple more than I was even supposed to. I think it looks really good.
It looks really good. I'm going to use a fork just because it's sticky.
And I'm going to go with the old pick it up.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious what the crust is like.
Like a shortbread.
Like a cookie almost? Mm-hmm. I can't stick it in my mouth.
It's absolutely delicious.
I have to stab it to break it. Yeah, you're probably better off just picking it up and eating it.
Yeah. It has a nice bottom.
And not a soggy bottom.
Absolutely love the pecans.
I really like the crust.
I do too, because it tastes like shortbread.
Yeah. It reminds me of a pie crust, like you're making a pecan pie.
Yeah.
Now the goo, whatever you want to call it, we always call it pecan pie goo. This goo is not quite like pecan pie goo because it's not as thick and not as overly sweet. This is more like a custard, or you said it kind of reminds you of custard. It kind of reminds me of a custard.
I took the pan that it was in, and before I washed it, I of course had to get some on my finger, and the texture of it reminded me of a custard texture. I think Kevin and I were both concerned about the smell of the apple cider vinegar. It was
very strong.
It was strong. Yes, it was strong. And when we were baking it, it was still strong. And when you were in the other room and it was baking, you could really smell the apple cider. And then when you would actually come into the kitchen, it would smell more buttery, that buttery crust. So I think we were both concerned that you would be able to taste it.
It's based on smell.
Yeah, I don't know what the point of using it was, because honestly, it must do something. Yeah, because you cannot taste it whatsoever.
Which I'm glad.
I am.
Because it wouldn't have been
me too. But this is it. Honestly,
it's very good.
It's sweet, but it's not overly sweet. I do not think it is as sweet as a pecan pie.
No. I like the butterscotch topping too.
I do too, but I think the gel inside a pecan pie is sweeter. It's a much sweeter, stronger flavor than this, but I really do like the texture combinations, and I like the flavor quite a bit. I can tell you liked it. Now, when I picked this out, like I said, this was in the Food Network magazine. I saw the picture, and I did not read the instructions at all. And I saw the picture, and then I looked at all the ingredients, and I thought, I'm gonna make this. Had I read the directions before I had chosen it and bought all the ingredients, I would not have made it, just based on the directions, because there's so many
thoughts involved.
There's a lot involved. There's a lot of parts, and this is not something that if you've just started out baking or something like that. And I bake quite a bit, I feel like, but this has a lot of instructions. And just like with the pecans, they want you to crush this many or chop this many, but then reserve this many. And for me, I just use, you can see it doesn't make any, what difference does it make at all whether you used halves or crushed? it didn't
Chopped.
make a bit of difference.
Yeah, I wouldn't use chips like the little bitty tiny ones, but chopped is perfectly fine.
It made mention of using unsalted butter both times. I used regular salted butter,
It's not salty.
and I still use the salt they required, and it is not overly salty. It doesn't like the salt does not stand out.
No, you wouldn't know it was salty.
Yeah, and then they made mention of laying out the butter, having it softened. I don't think that makes any difference.
It didn't orange.
I do think they said you could use scotch. I do think if you used like
Add a little different flavor.
I think bourbon would be good because think of a
Bourbon
pecan
pecan.
pie. A bourbon pecan pie is awesome. If we had had some bourbon, we would have added bourbon to it, but we don't have any. I think bourbon would be delicious with this, and it would up that
Whiskey,
flavor.
bourbon, and
Yeah, I think that would be delicious. I do think this is really nice.
it's
but-
good, and you can make it for a small gathering. You couldn't make a big gathering because you don't get that many pieces. But
But
for a
I would
small
just
gathering-
want you to know that it's kind of just like, it's just a lot of things to do. And it's a lot of do it and then wait and put it in the oven. And then, so you have to do this, put it in the oven, this, put it in the oven. And it's just a lot of that kind of thing. And so I would just want you to know, I felt like, oh, this is a bigger recipe. This is a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be. But I'm glad I did it now because
Yeah,
it did
it
turn
worked
out
out.
good. It's
It worked out
nice.
well.
I just would want you to know that if you were a beginner, I would not start with this.
No, not if you're first out.
Yeah, because just doing that crust alone
Yeah, that
would,
took some steps.
yeah, it took,
And putting the stuff over the heat and getting it to like a pudding-like texture, you have to know when to stop because it'll
Yes.
get too thick.
it'll get too thick. Yeah, so you just have to know. So, like I said, I'm glad I made it, but I'm glad I'm actually glad I didn't read the instructions first because then I would have never even
Good job.
attempted it. It would have scared me. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you get this magazine, if you're making anything fun for the month of November that they have featured in here, I'd love to hear what you're going to make. And thanks for watching.